The rusted hulk of a former American beauty sat quietly in Philadelphia, a shell of her former glory. She was once an incredible ocean liner, named proudly after the nation who built her, and one of the fastest ships in the world. Now, she faces eviction, and a new life at the bottom of the sea as an artificial reef. Welcome to Shipwreck Sunday. My name is Eleanor. Just a quick disclaimer for our younger audience before we dive in. This story may be disturbing to some, so viewer discretion is advised. Okay everyone, let's get into it. Alright, let's start with some questions our members asked about. Our member Brian Spendolo asked, quote, what percentage of her total displacement was devoted to her power plant? It would have to be far higher than a modern cruise liner, but a comparison would be nice. So, SS United States' gross registered tonnage sat at 53,329 gross registered tons. That is with her lightweight aluminum frame, fittings, engine, everything. So, she was equipped with 4 Westinghouse double reduction geared steam turbines. One of these can weigh up to 20.5 metric tons, so 4 would weigh 82 metric tons. Looking at her boilers, she had 8 Babcock & Wilcox Type M boilers. One of these can weigh up to 590 metric tons, so 8 of them would be 4,720 metric tons. Here's where it might get a little tricky in our calculations, for 4 propeller shafts and 4 propellers. Each propeller weighs 27 metric tons, and depending upon the material of a propeller shaft, they can weigh around 20 to 50 metric tons. We'll take the average of about 35 tons and go from there. So adding all of this up together, we're looking at about 5,050 metric tons. Therefore, that's about 9.5% of her total gross registered tonnage, and for the typical ship, the power plant makes up about 1% of the total displacement. This is all done by my own calculations, so take it with a grain of salt. Leopard1 asked us to, quote, talk about her carrier-inspired machinery. So both questions are along the same seam, and I love that for us. Her power plant was incredibly unusual for a passenger liner. She was built with secret intentions for the US Navy, hence the militaristic nature of her engines. Theoretically, her engine setup could generate 310,000 pounds of steam per hour, and 925 pounds per square inch and 975 degrees Fahrenheit, which was extremely high for a passenger ship. This gave her incredible speed and power, along with her light aluminum framing. In total, she could generate 240,000 horsepower, and at full speed ahead, she hit speeds of 38.32 knots, and reversed almost as fast as Titanic could move forward, which was about 21 knots. She was an incredibly fast ship, and still holds the blue ribbon to this day. Thank you to our members for your interesting inquiries, and now let's get into her much-needed update. If you are unfamiliar with SS United States, check out our full episode on her from last year. We need to rewind to 2021 for just a moment. Penn Warehousing, the company that owns Pier 82 where SS United States has been docked in Philadelphia since 1996, doubled the rent to a whopping $80,000 a month and started litigation to remove the ship. The SS United States Conservancy, the organization that owns the ship and led by the granddaughter of the ship's designer Susan Gibbs, and Penn Warehousing sued each other, with the latter demanding back rent and wishing to end its contract, and the former alleging that they were being forced out of a previous legal agreement. Just this past June in 2024, a verdict came to fruition. This gave Penn Warehousing the go-ahead to terminate the agreement, giving the Conservancy just 90 days to move the American liner. They launched a frantic fundraiser. However, they were unable to make the funds needed by the September 12th deadline. They did successfully request an extension to the deadline, alleging Penn Warehousing was interfering with the deal to have SS United States sunk as an artificial reef so they could sell the ship themselves. However, the Conservancy has now confirmed that they signed over the title of the ship to Okaloosa County in Florida to become an artificial reef off the coast of Destin, Fort Walton Beach in a $10 million deal. The former Great Liner will be, quote, the world's largest artificial reef in tandem with the Conservancy's land-based museum and visitor center. Tens of thousands of people visiting annually from around the world will experience her and learn her story both on land and as a vibrant habitat for marine life. Once deployed by Okaloosa County, more people will be able to visit and learn about the ship in the space of 1 year than have had the opportunity since she left seagoing service more than half a century ago, claimed the Conservancy. I don't know if I agree with it being more available sunken than it is right now, since not all of us can afford to go to Florida, let alone know how to dive, but that's just my opinion. In a statement given by the Okaloosa County Board of Commissioners, they said a sunken United States, quote, will be home for a diverse range of marine life and attract divers and anglers from around the world. The purchase of the SS United States will continue the growth of Destin Fort Walton Beach's robust artificial reef program, the most active and one of the largest vessel artificial reef collections in the United States. I was naive enough to think SS United States was being sunk primarily with the goal to save marine wildlife, and I could get behind that. But the fact she's being sunk with monetary gain in the forefront makes me angry. She is a piece of history that deserved to be saved, and instead, she faces a fate that, while is better than the scrapyard, is still a far cry from the restoration she deserved. SS United States deserves so much better than she is getting. But our members and patrons get all that they deserve and more. This episode couldn't be possible without our amazing YouTube members and patrons. Thank you all so much. If you'd like to have some awesome perks like episodes a full day in advance, join our YouTube memberships today. Okay, let's look at the current timeline of things. SS United States was originally planned to be moved at the end of October. However, the threat of a possible tropical storm in the Caribbean has delayed it to November 15, 2024. She will first be towed to Mobile, Alabama, to be prepped for sinking. According to CBS News Philadelphia, there is a buildup of silt and mud on the river bottom where SS United States currently sits, and so when the time comes to move her, she will be ever so gently shoved at high tide to the north side of Pier 80, and that way she won't be dragged through the silt and mud. Then she will be towed out into the channel to make her way down to Alabama. This process will be laborious and take several hours. After she's in the channel, the marine company handling her move will then have to wait for low tide for her to safely pass beneath the 4 bridge spans, which includes the Walt Whitman Bridge, the Commodore Barry, and the twin spans of the Delaware Memorial Bridge. SS United States reaches up 151 feet from the waterline, and one of the bridges of the Delaware River is only a few feet higher than this, so she will scrape by the skin of her teeth. Then, she will head to Mobile, Alabama to finish preparation for her sinking. This will include removing any harmful fittings, so possibly the remnants of her chipping lead paint, possibly the removal of glass that could harm divers, and then a final sign-off from the U.S. Coast Guard before she heads to Florida to be sunk. This process is estimated to take 1.5 years and cost about $10 million. Part of this money will be used to create a museum commemorating her and to tow her to Alabama. The museum will retain her radar mast and at least one funnel, as well as several recreated onboard spaces. The asbestos on the ship was removed in the early 1990s in Ukraine, leaving her completely gutted by 1994, so it's unclear exactly what will be done to prepare her for scuttling. The process is estimated to be done by at least 2026, so we will still have some time left with SS United States to say goodbye, and to possibly save her. The most recent news on her has been updated on October 28, 2024, and so far, this is all we know. There were rumors that she'd be sunk this year, but that's unlikely at this point. Anything harmful to marine life will be stripped from the ship. This could include paint, her power plant that is still left aboard despite being drained of fuel and oil, and any artifacts being preserved for the planned museum. Many ship lovers around the world and all over the internet have expressed their sadness, anger, and disappointment with the failure to save SS United States. Anger is directed in many directions, though I've mostly seen it at the assumed incompetency of the Conservancy, and I say assumed because I've never ran a Conservancy and have no idea what that's like. Anger has been directed at Okaloosa County for the reef and its reasoning, and at the nation of the United States as a whole for a lack of regard for its own vessel, a perceived lack of patriotism, and a lack of knowledge regarding the ship. My own sadness and anger comes from the hope for a fully restored SS United States being dashed. We need to remember that even though the United States won't be restored to her former glory, she will at least still exist as a whole piece and not be thrown to the scrappers. While this may not be the outcome many of us wanted, it is the lesser of two evils. I would love to hear your thoughts and feelings about her upcoming scuttling in the comments section below. If you liked that story and wanted to hear something similar, check out our Ocean Liners playlist in the cards. Tune in next week for the story of Issei, an Imperial Japanese battleship that survived World War I and World War II only to face the scrapyard. Thank you for tuning into Shipwreck Sunday, have a great week, and we'll see you next time.